wherever any senator wants to draw that line. Constitutionally, there is no partisanship.
From his boyhood until he completely entered politics, Lindsey Graham has made an indelible mark on American politics. Is he familiar to you? He is one of the experienced senators from South Carolina who stayed a bachelor in Washington, D.C. However, there is still a mystery around one part of his life, even if he has a prominent career. But Lindsey Graham's lifelong bachelorhood has come to light thanks to Darlene, who is Lindsey's sister. Come explore the unseen tale of Lindsey Graham's lengthy period of singlehood with us. We'll look at the reasons he never tied the knot and how his own obligations influenced his decisions. We need to take a close look at this American senator's childhood and history before we can understand the difficulties he faces. An American politician and lawyer, Lindsey Olin Graham, has been the senior senator for South Carolina since 2003. In the years between 1999 and 2001, Graham, a Republican, led the Senate Committee on the Judiciary. Describe his upbringing. Were obstacles all around him? Let's go. Lindsey Graham spent her childhood in the back room of a bar in South Carolina, where she and the other customers shared the restroom with people who worked at a mill factory across the street. Water that had been heated on the stove was used for his bathing. He began racking tables at the basement pool club when he was 12 years old, contributing to his family's little finances. He was born to Millie Walters and Florence James F.J. Graham in central South Carolina, the son of proprietors of the Sanitary Cafe, a restaurant, bar, pool hall, and liquor shop. Scots and Irish make up his family tree. A spirit of perseverance and ingenuity pervaded Lindsey's childhood home. Living in an unorthodox place with his parents and younger sister Darlene, he developed a strong feeling of independence due to the harsh realities of his childhood. The events of Graham's childhood, as recounted in his memoir My Story, would cause modern readers to wonder what happened to him. In Graham's private life, how did you believe his family shaped him? Be vigilant. Graham, who hails from modest beginnings, talks favorably of his parents and childhood, referring to the patrons of his family's tavern as members of his extended family. It was a fantastic way to grow up at the Sanitary Cafe, Graham reflected, adding, parents would probably lose custody of their children today if they let them behave as independently and as rascally as I did. Actually, he had a few Budweisers and Millers on hand for the free thinkers in the group, as well as an ice bucket full of Pabst Blue Ribbon to distribute to customers. Graham has been known to sneak a drink or puff of a cigarette or beer as other customers dash for the lavatory. Everyone in the pub, with the exception of his parents, started calling him Stinkball because of it. On the other hand, the bar had its fair share of controversy. According to Graham, despite the fact that around 20% of Central's patrons were black, the Sanitary Cafe in the segregated South forbade them from purchasing alcohol. Given the circumstances, the majority of our patrons were white, he stated. Unfortunately, for a considerable portion of the time that my parents ran the bar, it was expected that black customers would consume the beer they bought from us outside the establishment. It's simply the way things are, Graham remembers his father telling him. It wasn't until the early 1970s that the bar desegregated. According to Graham, it took much longer than it should have to happen. When it did happen, white customers left in a flash. However, Graham maintained that his father would not tolerate racism. Cracked his helmet hard against the guy's skull and laid him out cold, his father said of a white customer who yelled racist epithets at a black man. Graham, who was described as a precocious and non-stop talker, claimed he didn't feel impoverished and continued to participate in extracurricular activities such as Cub Scouts, Little League Baseball, and rabbit hunting. In addition, he mentions that the variety of items available to him at the Sanitary Cafe, which included pig's feet, would make the students envy. At what point in his life did Lindsey Graham face the greatest challenges? Be vigilant in your search. After graduating from DW, Graham entered the Reserve Officers Training Corps while he was a senior at Daniel High School, making him the first in his family to go to college. The loss of a parent, however, was the most trying moment. Graham was 20 years old when his mother was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, just after his family took their first trip together, traveling to Orlando, Florida for a vacation to Disney World. Her prognosis was 6 months out. Things turned out grimly in the end. "I'm sorry, but she's passed away," the doctor informed Graham and his family. His sister froze. He begged his mom to come to them as he ran to her side, embraced her, and cried out to her. Sure enough, she accomplished it. His mother survived for just 1 more week after she recovered. "Lindsey, she told me to let go and talked about heaven." While she was fighting for her life, Graham's dad had prostate cancer. For the last care of his parents, Lindsey and his sister will travel to 2 different hospitals. Their father died of a huge heart attack 15 months after their mother passed away, and 13-year-old Darlene discovered his body. According to Graham, he achieved serenity after being elected to Congress. "I knew my parents were proud of me, and I knew that my success was due to all they had done for me. I had accomplished more than we could have imagined." He abandoned his younger sister, who was 13 years old at the time. In his role as legal guardian for his sister, Graham was able to attend USC in Columbia thanks to the service. He became a member of the fraternity Pi Kappa Phi while he was a student. Both the emotional and practical toll of the loss forced him to reevaluate his priorities in life. Darlene, his younger sister, was quite vulnerable and needed help. Graham took on his new role with grace and put his sister's needs ahead of his own short-term goals. Graham maintained his word to Darlene and took good care of her, as Darlene says in interviews. Graham was able to continue his studies with the support of his extended family, who helped him arrange for Darlene to reside with their aunt and uncle in Seneca. Rather than avoiding accountability, this was a calculated move to protect her. He was more than just a moral pillar for his sister. Graham became Darlene's legal guardian and secured insurance and benefits for her before she joined the United States Air Force, which was a huge step. His lifelong commitment to his family and his strong feeling of duty are on full display during this time. With a Bachelor of Arts degree, he left the University of South Carolina, earned a bachelor's degree in psychology in 1977 and a law degree from the University of South Carolina in the year 19. Why do you believe South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has never tied the knot? Could it be because there isn't enough opportunity? Let's dive in and find out what it took to bring him together with his brothers. If elected, Graham would be one of the few presidents who does not discuss his love connections extensively in the book. But he does admit that in his 20s, when stationed in Germany with the Air Force, he had 2 serious romances. His tour of service came to a close, and he and Carol, an Air Force JAG officer stationed in England, had a blast together, and were both excellent lawyers. He mentioned that Carol went on to marry and work for Colin Powell. A similar incident occurred to his girlfriend Debbie while she was sitting on Graham's sofa at one of his each more disorderly and unsanitary than the previous one apartments while he was a law student. When we stood up to depart for our date, I observed that Debbie's posterior was now adhered to a peanut butter sandwich that either my roommate or I had allowed to fall between the cushions, Graham said. We also had a few pals there who caught wind of it and spread the word across campus. It is possible that Graham's obligations and life circumstances impacted his decision-making, as none of these relationships ended in marriage. His comments show how difficult it is to have a long-term loving connection while still fulfilling one's public obligations and pursuing one's own dreams. Was that his only effort at a relationship? Be vigilant. He came dangerously close to proposing to Sylvia, a Lufthansa flight attendant, during their serious, quickly relationship. Nevertheless, they parted ways due to Graham's want to return to South Carolina and the difficulties of a long-distance relationship. I was a South Carolina lad who needed to go home, she said, explaining that she had to return to Vienna due to family matters. I've never married. I guess I attribute that to timing, too, Graham said in his memoir, addressing his lifelong bachelorhood with customary humor and insight. It's clear that his work as a caretaker at such a critical age impacted his personal life and romantic possibilities. "I haven't been lucky that way, but I have a family." This self-deprecating explanation belies a deeper truth, though. Psychologists like Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo suggest that taking on significant caregiving responsibilities at a young age can delay or alter personal development trajectories. Lindsey Graham's early adult years were likely consumed by his dedication to his sister, leaving little room for pursuing long-term romantic relationships. Although she is 9 years his junior, Graham devotes a great deal of his time to describing his sister Darlene, the person he loves the most in the world. He describes how he and Darlene became close as youngsters, and how he took care of Darlene while their parents ran the bar and liquor business that their family eventually owned. Graham went on to discuss his complicated family life, which may have played a role in his decision not to get married. Following the death of their parents, he became the legal guardian of his younger sister. On weekends, he would return home from college to take care of her, even enforcing curfews and making sure she was hanging out with the right crowd at school. When he joined the Air Force, he became her legal guardian so that she could receive his benefits. In an interview, Lindsey Graham's sister Darlene Graham Nordone praised her sister's selfless dedication to her care, saying, "Lindsey said he's going to take care of me, that he's going to be there for me." Darlene went on to say, "Lindsey was like a father to me," to describe Lindsey's impact on her life. "He looked after me, and for that I will be eternally thankful." In an interview, Lindsey Graham discusses his marital status, saying that a family is a blessing, but that he doesn't feel bad about being single, and that a family may be had without marriage. In the political world, where marriage is considered the norm, Graham's bachelor status has raised eyebrows. Nevertheless, he hasn't allowed his single status to hinder his political career. What happened after graduation? Keep watching to find out more. He has joked about having a rotating first lady if he were to become president, with his sister potentially filling the role. His military career began in 1982 when he was commissioned as an officer in the Judge Advocate General's Corps JAG Corps of the United States Air Force. He served as an Air Force defense attorney for a while before being transferred to Rhein-Main Air Base in Frankfurt, Germany, where he was chief prosecutor for the Air Force in Europe from 1984 to 1988. The personal life of Lindsey Graham became even more challenging as her political career took off. Being a public servant requires long hours, extensive travel, and the ability to endure public scrutiny, all of which may put a strain on even the strongest relationships. Graham's rise through the ranks of the United States House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and the Air Force was a laborious and time-consuming process that was made even more so by his continuing obligations to his sister. In 1984, while defending a pilot accused of marijuana use, he was featured in an episode of 6 Minutes that exposed the Air Force's flawed substance testing procedures. After serving in Europe, he returned to South Carolina, leaving active duty in 1989 to enter private practice as a lawyer. Before joining the U.S. Air Force Reserve, Graham served as an assistant county attorney for Oconee County from 1988 to 1990, and as city attorney for Central from 1990 to 1994. After his time in the Air Force ended, he joined the South Carolina Air National Guard in 1989 and remained there until 1995. He was then recalled to active duty during the Gulf War and served as a judge advocate at McEntire Air National Guard Station in Eastover, South Carolina, where he briefed departing pilots on the laws of war. "I have not informed anybody I'm a combatant," Graham said in response to a 1999 allegation by the Capitol Hill daily newspaper, the Hill that Graham had claimed on his website to have served as a veteran of Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. "I didn't claim to be a war hero, and I never will be. I am unfit to serve in Congress if I have misrepresented my service record." Graham was promoted to the rank of colonel in the United States Air Force Reserve in 2004, following his promotion to lieutenant colonel in 1999. The promotion took place at a White House ceremony officiated by President George W. Bush. In 2004, a lower court upheld Graham's eligibility to serve as a military judge while he was a senator. In 2000, after reviewing the lower court's decision and finding that Graham should not have served as a military judge, the Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces reversed the decision. In 2000-2001, Graham was a reservist on active duty in Iraq for a brief period in April and 2 weeks in August, where he dealt with detainee and rule of law issues. A senior legal advisor to the Air Force in Iraq and Afghanistan from August 2009 to July 2014, overseeing the detention of military prisoners, Graham was awarded a Bronze Star Medal in 2014 for his distinguished service. He had previously served in Afghanistan during the August 2009 Senate recess and had been assigned as a senior instructor at the Judge Advocate General School, though he never attended. As a senator and congressman, Graham was ineligible for a military paycheck during his time in federal government service. In 2015, he retired at the rank of colonel from the Air Force after more than 33 years of service, having reached the statutory retirement age of 60 for his rank. Graham earned points toward a military pension, but was unpaid as an Air Force officer. Before we get into his relationship with Trump, did you know that Graham was criticized for being gay? Could this be true, given his refusal to pursue a long-term relationship? Let's find out the speculations surrounding him. General public conjecture. Being one of the few high-ranking American politicians who has never been married has naturally piqued the public's interest and sparked rumors about Lindsey Graham's sexual orientation. Many people and organizations have cast doubt on Graham's position on LGBT issues, implying that his voting record goes against traditional conservative principles. Some Democrats' campaign strategists, media critics, and bloggers have made passing references to Graham's sexual orientation and bachelor status. In 2018, comedian Chelsea Handler ignited a controversy by suggesting on social media that Graham might be gay. By saying, "Number one, she knows zero about me," Graham confronted these remarks head-on instead of aggressively responding. As far as it's relevant, I'm not homosexual. The suspicions about Graham's personal life have been constantly denied by him, who maintains that they have no bearing on how his political career is seen. He is secure in his life decisions, firm yet unfazed, and his reaction shows his attitude toward public interest. His political career has been mostly undisturbed by the lingering interest about Graham's private life. Issues like national security and foreign policy, which he considers critical to the nation, remain his primary areas of attention as a major player in American politics. Graham is a model of the political ideology that prioritizes public service and policy over private concerns by keeping his personal and professional lives completely separate. Even if people are still debating his private life, he has managed to stay steady and influential by using this strategy. While running for president in July of 2015, Graham slammed fellow contender Donald Trump as a jackass for claiming that Graham's buddy Senator John McCain was not a war hero. In response, Trump branded Graham an idiot, and during a campaign event revealed Graham's mobile phone number, urging supporters to contact Graham. The leading Republican candidate for president, Donald Trump, advocated for a travel ban on Muslims in December 2015. In response, Graham, who had almost any backing as a presidential contender, said, "He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my Republican Party. I don't think he has a clue about anything. He is empowering radical Islam. You know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell." He further stated, "I'd rather lose without Donald Trump than try to win with him." After Trump implied bias in his criticism of a judge of Mexican heritage, Graham told CNN, "I don't think Trump is racist, but he's playing the race card. I think it's very un-American. If he continues this line of attack, then I think people really need to reconsider the future of the Republican Party." This came after Graham tweeted in May 2016, "If we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed, and we will deserve it." Trump's criticism of the judge had already taken place in June 2016. In an interview with the New York Times, Graham stated that this event should serve as the final straw for anybody considering dropping their support for Outweigh. He added, "There will be a day when the love of country will trump hatred of Hillary Clinton," referring to the Democratic presidential nominee. Graham voted for independent Evan McMullin in the November presidential election instead of Trump because, as he put it, "I couldn't go where Donald Trump wanted to take the USA and the GOP." In the end, do you know they make up? Stay vigilant. In March of this year, Trump met with Graham. After their tense encounter in 2015, Graham reportedly gave Trump his new phone number since the meeting went so smoothly. On many times in October of 2016, Trump and Graham hit the links, with Graham raving about their first round. The American press's never-ending effort to portray Trump as a cook, unqualified to be president, was Graham's main gripe with Trump coverage in November 2017. Graham stated in April 2018 that he will back Trump's re-election in 2020. In January 2019, Graham emphasized that Republicans should back Trump's initiatives, saying, "If we undercut the president, that's the end of his presidency and our party." During the swearing-in ceremony of newly confirmed Attorney General William Barr on February 14, 2019, Graham is seen with President Donald Trump. In February 2019, Mark Leibovich interviewed Graham for the New York Times Magazine, asking Graham about his rise to prominence as a Trump supporter. For his part, Graham said he was trying to be relevant by collaborating with the president to achieve positive national results. "Throughout my life, I have never been addressed by a president with such profanity. Some things he requested of me, I asked of him, and vice versa. I personally like him," Graham said of his relationship with Trump, adding that he had a political marriage with John McCain but was now trying to join Trump's inner circle to become as influential as Melania, Ivanka, and Jared Kushner. "Golf is our game. He treats me very well." Graham said that he thinks his chances of being re-elected to the Senate in 2022 would improve if he and Trump had a cordial relationship. Even though McCain was one of Graham's dearest friends, Trump continued to trash McCain for 7 months following his death. After that, Graham came under fire for allegedly being too soft on McCain. He said, "To all those people who bring up this narrative, you just hate Trump. You're not offended about me and McCain. You're trying to use me to get to Trump. I'm not into this idea that the only way to honor John McCain is to trash out Trump." In addition, he declared, "The bottom line here is, I'm going to help President Trump." McCain had previously barred Trump from attending his burial. Apparently, Graham invited Trump's daughter Ivanka to attend the burial, and she apparently obtained permission from McCain's wife. Trump reportedly contacted Graham following his heartfelt Senate floor farewell to McCain, in which he informed Graham that he did right by his friend. In May of 2019, Graham was criticized, along with Senator Joe Manchin, for allegedly encouraging Donald Trump Jr. to disregard a subpoena from the Senate Intelligence Committee. By July of the same year, Graham denied that Trump was racist, and denied that his comments that some Democratic congresswomen should go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came did not constitute racism. "I don't believe a Somali refugee who embraces Trump would be ordered to return," Graham stated. "I have never heard him make a single racist statement. If you're racist, you want everybody to go back because they are black or Muslim." Graham, as published in the Washington Post earlier in August of 2018, absolutely not. In contrast, Graham criticized Trump's decision to withdraw U.S. forces from northern Syria in an interview with Axios's Jonathan Swan on October 8, 2019, claiming that Trump was endangering the country and his presidency by making the announcement without the backing of important national security advisors. In December of 2017, as 2 articles of impeachment against Trump were headed for a vote in the House and subsequent referral to the Senate for trial, Graham stated, "I am trying to give a pretty clear signal I have made up my mind." The media's attention was directed towards Graham's apparent lack of gratitude for his advice and his reversals. He said, "I'm not attempting to pretend to be a fair juror here," before declaring his disdain for the accusations in the process, and promising to do all in his power to see that the matter was expeditiously disposed of once it reached the Senate. The Democrats countered by bringing up Graham's remarks from the Bill Clinton impeachments in 1998, where he cited Nixon as evidence that a president who disregarded a subpoena should be impeached for seizing the power from Congress over the impeachment process away from them, and acting as judge and jury himself. The result was that the Senate trial did not require any witnesses. From the sudden death of his parents and the responsibilities that came with being a guardian to his steadfast dedication to public service, Lindsey Graham's life has been shaped by a succession of deliberate and, at times, challenging decisions. His journey provides a thought-provoking view of how both choices and circumstances can influence one's destiny. The decisions he has made have kept him from settling down with a wife and starting a family, allowing him to devote himself entirely to other endeavors. According to social psychologists like Dr. Bella DePaulo, society tends to look down on people who choose not to get married and instead focus on their careers, families, or public service. Senator Graham is one of many who sees being unmarried as a valid and valuable life choice. His reputation for political compromise and his friendship with the late Senator John McCain aside, he was slow to back former President Donald Trump, but they eventually became allies. As a result of their partnership, he was subpoenaed to testify regarding phone calls with Brad Raffensperger, Georgia's Secretary of State, allegedly regarding the prospect of invalidating ballots for the 2000 elections. Now let's take a look at the wealth of the senator from South Carolina. His investment portfolio and congressional salary, which begins at $170,000 per year, make up the majority of his net worth, which ranges from $1 million to $2 million, according to the U.S. Senate website. Graham, who is childless and single, had a straightforward personal financial disclosure for 2016. All assets were held in his name, and he had no debt other than mortgages on properties in Washington, D.C. and South Carolina. According to Graham's assets, he has put money into corporate bond funds and mutual funds, as well as the iShares Russell 2000 ETF. He also has 4 bank accounts, including checking and savings accounts with First Citizens and the United States Senate Federal Credit Union, totaling up to $81,000, and a TD Ameritrade money market account with up to $100,000. In terms of real estate, Graham is not obligated to disclose any properties that he does not intend to rent out, so the exact values of the houses he has mortgages on in Washington, D.C. and Seneca, South Carolina remain unknown. What is known, however, is that Graham owes a maximum of $250,000 on the D.C. house and a maximum of $15,000 on the Seneca home that he claims as his principal residence. In addition to his ownership of up to $15,000 worth of undeveloped property in Seneca, Graham's net worth seems low when compared to other politicians who make millions off of investments, books, speaking fees, and other sources of income. His rise from a shared room in the back of a small-town bar to the halls of the U.S. Senate is an inspiration, a story of personal sacrifice, duty, and resilience. The account of Graham's life serves as a reminder that there is no cookie-cutter formula for happiness. Rather, it compels us to think about how our duties and life circumstances shape our trajectories, and to accept and even embrace the decisions we've made along the way. Please subscribe to our next video, and let us know how your personal responsibilities and life circumstances impact your choices in love and marriage in the comments box below. We appreciate you watching and want to hear your opinions.